But just now, didn't you say that they don't act up?
I didn't mean to.
Is there a drug problem in the school?
I guess so.
And you know, don't you, that Ray Concha is in the band?
Yes, she's one of my best students.
Jason Johnson is in the band as well, correct?
Well, he used to be.
Jason and Ray are good friends, correct?
Well, they used to be, yeah.
Isn't it true that during Jason's senior year he missed more rehearsals than in the past?
Yeah, he was also spending a lot more time with Alex Weaver, I noticed.
Isn't it true that when he did show up, he didn't seem to care or take part as much in the band?
That's true, and this all started senior year. I never had that problem before Alex Weaver showed up.
You never saw Alex take any drugs, correct?
No,
And you never saw Alex sell any drugs, correct?
I couldn't really see what he was doing in the back of the classroom.
And you never even saw Alex with any drugs, correct?
No, I didn't.
This large wad of bills that you testified Alex had, you don't know why he had that money, do you?
No, but students don't normally pull out large wads of bills in my class.
You don't know what the source of that money is, do you?
No.
Isn't it true that you've seen Alex shaking kids' hands?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you've seen Alex slapping kids on the back?
Sure.
And Alex is a popular kid, correct?
Yeah, it was weird that a senior transfer student was immediately so popular.
Alex is a popular guy because Alex is a personal guy, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain that.
You held trials for the lead drummer in the band, correct?
I did.
And you chose Ray Concha over Alex Weaver, correct?
I did. Ray seems to care a lot more about the band and always shows up for practices.
And Alex is a pretty good musician, correct?
If she put a little more effort into her work, she could be pretty decent, yeah.
On the morning of March 27th, did Jason Johnson collapse in your band class?
Yes.
And isn't it true that by this time Ray and Jason were in the band together?
Yes.
And isn't it true that by this time Jason and Alex were not in the band together?
Yes.
Even though Jason was breathing, he was non-responsive, correct?
Yes, from what I could see.
You then dialed 911,
Of course, one of my students collapsed on the floor.
and then you notified Principal McAllister, correct?
I did.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
You mentioned on cross-examination that you had never seen Alex Weaver with any drugs.
Yes.
Had you ever seen Ray Concha with any drugs?
No, I haven't.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any further response?
Right now, I teach at the Dawkins DeKalb Medical School in Spring County, next to Rosewood.
What sort of background do you have in medicine?
I earned my medical degree from Ohio Medical School, received certification in forensic pathology, and worked for 25 years in the Spring County Coroner's Office.
So have you ever been published in your field?
Definitely. During my time in the Coroner's Office, I published The Pathology of Drug Abuse, which is today used nationwide to teach the fundamentals of forensic medicine.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is going on the narrative.
That's overruled. Laying the foundation towards expertise.
So how are you involved in this case?
I was brought in pro bono to review the conclusions Dr. Sanchez made regarding Jason Johnson's cause of death and present my findings in court today.
And what information did you have access to during this review?
I had Dr. Sanchez's autopsy report and the decedent's medical records.
So let's walk through what you discovered. First, what were Dr. Sanchez's conclusions?
Dr. Sanchez wrote that traces of Adderall found in the decedent's system were responsible for his death.
Do you agree?
I don't. Jason Johnson only had trace amounts of Adderall in his system. The figure Dr. Sanchez supplied, about 40 milligrams, falls within a normal prescription range for Adderall.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is going on the narrative.
That's overruled. I think he's explaining his opinion at this point. You may continue.
40 milligrams isn't nearly enough to be toxic, let alone cause death.
Could you explain how having 40 milligrams per liter of blood of Adderall in your system would not be toxic?
Sure. Imagine you have a glass of water. If you were to pour a red paint in that glass and drink it, that would almost certainly be toxic. However, if you were to then take that glass of red paint and pour it in, say, one of the Great Lakes and drink their water, the chance that you'd be poisoned becomes minuscule. In fact, it was such a minute amount that the Adderall in the decedent's system was like a glass of red paint in the lake of his body.
So if you don't think Adderall caused Jason Johnson's death, do you have an opinion on what did?
Yes, the decedent consumed a startling amount of alcohol.
How much alcohol is a startling amount?
See, we can't be positive exactly how much. The decedent was recorded as having a blood alcohol content of 0.05, but that was only recorded once he was in the emergency room. Time changes someone's BAC.
So would either a 0.05 or 0.15 blood alcohol content be enough to cause death in a typical teenager of the decedent's size?
No, Jason Johnson was not a typical teenager, however. Based on my review of his medical records, Jason Johnson had a heart defect called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which can ultimately block blood flow back to the heart.
How does alcohol consumption connect to that heart defect?
Drinking too much alcohol decreases the volume of blood that gets back to the heart. Between the heart defect blocking blood from getting to the heart and the alcohol thinning out the blood that actually makes it back, the decedent wouldn't have had enough blood in his heart to function.
Doctor, what is your ultimate conclusion about Jason Johnson's cause of death?
Jason Johnson died due to a lack of blood flow to his heart, induced by a pre-existing heart defect and alcohol, causing his heart attack. The minuscule amount of Adderall that the decedent consumed had a tiny or negligible effect.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
To strike the witness's testimony after, yes.
Have you heard, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
This is an expert witness, and his answer would not be complete if he did not explain himself.
All right, that objection is overruled.
Isn't it true that vessels can burst in the brain and cause immediate death?
Yes, that is true.
Adderall is bad for patients such as Jason, correct?
It can be.
Jason had traces of Adderall in his system, correct?
He did.
Jason didn't have a prescription for Adderall, correct?
Yes.
So if he had Adderall in his system, he would have obtained the Adderall illegally.
I wouldn't know.
You don't dispute that both alcohol and Adderall were in his system, do you?
No, I don't.
Is it true that a 0.05 blood alcohol content is much lower than the usual concentration seen in alcohol poisoning?
Yes, but as I explained before, 0.05 was only recorded once he was in the emergency room. Before, it could have been much higher.
Objection, the witness is going on a narrative motion to strike the witness's statement after yes.
Have you heard, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Again, the witness is an expert witness, and his answer would not be complete if he was not able to explain himself.
All right, that objection is overruled.
Isn't it true that a 0.05 blood alcohol BAC is much lower than the blood alcohol content in alcohol-related death?
Usually.
Isn't it true that a 0.05 blood alcohol content is below the threshold of causing death?
Yes.
And isn't it true that the alcohol alone would not have killed him?
Combined with his heart defect, it might have. And I presume that it did.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Redirect, Your Honor.
Yes, you may.
May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Doctor, was the amount of Adderall found in Jason Johnson lethal to someone of Jason Johnson's size?
No.
Now, do consultants such as yourself typically form accurate scientific conclusions without examining a physical body?
Absolutely. What we do is we cross-reference the scientific reports with the medical records and explore the relationships between noted symptoms and pre-existing medical conditions. When our conclusions are inaccurate, it's usually because the original examiner, in this case Dr. Sanchez, failed to note important decisions, or important notes.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor. May the witness be excused.